Hello, Mick Atzeni from Toowoomba Bird Observers. I'm the current president of the club and I've been involved with them since 1979. Now, I also have a work career that started in Australian National Parks and Wildlife Service in the Wildlife Protection section. So the interest in birds has been a lifelong thing, and I'm very keen on protecting the birds of the Toowoomba Lockyer Valley area, which is a magnificent, diverse area. Bird Observers Club in Toowoomba, we've been monitoring the bird life of the greater Toowoomba area for nearly 50 years. And I've been involved for 45 years. So I'm in a position to comment on the significance of these sort of isolated remnant patches around the Highfields area. And this particular species, the forest red gum, is a very prolific flower, I think mainly in the winter and spring, and attracts a good number of species of honey eater, nectar eaters, and also the hollow nesters. So we have a large number of honey eaters, maybe 20 odd species of honey eater that would potentially use this tree each season when it's in flower, not just for the nectar but also insects. That would also include smaller birds like pardalotes and gerygines, and some of the birds like kingfishers and dollar birds use those trees as lovely vantage points to take reptiles and other things from the ground. Owls use the nesting hollows. That would be a brilliant tree for boobook owls to nest each season. I have a similar tree with hollows near my place at Murphy's Creek, and they are currently have bred 2 years running. So you won't get owls nesting in these young developments here. So this tree is 40, maybe. Those hollows look as though they could have been here for a couple of hundred years at least. Once they're about 50 centimetres wide, which takes about 50 years, it would start being useful for wildlife, but not before then. The parrots, I guess we have about 30 odd species of parrot in the Toowoomba area, and probably 15 of those would potentially use some of these hollows for nesting, as well as the blossom. The lorikeets would use them for feed. We have 4 species of lorikeet that probably utilise this tree: musk, little, rainbow and scaly-breasted lorikeets. But the other interesting species that could use this is the critically endangered swift parrot, if it gets to Queensland, as it does, and it did this year. Toowoomba has had several visits from swift parrots over the years, and they are very localised when they're here and tend to be very site loyal. So arguably a tree like this could attract something like that for the winter, and it would be devastating to arrive at your holiday spot from the cold old Tasmania in the winter, to arrive and your accommodation and food source was gone. So we're looking at basically a magnificent vertical habitat that species like potentially the swift parrot would utilise, and certainly other species utilise all year round for cover, nesting, food, vantage points and shade. Obviously on a hot summer's day, that sort of tree is important. Toowoomba is also very diverse in bird life because of where it is. It's on the edge of the escarpment. We have the Lockyer Valley to the east, the Downs to the west, and a beautiful line of escarpment which unfortunately has been fragmented, and it's important to retain what's left for corridors, not just for the birds but for also the mammals and other species reliant on a bit of cover to get from A to B. We have probably 308 species have been recorded by the club within a 20-kilometre radius of Toowoomba, so that in terms of the Australian total would be about 40% of the species found in Australia able to be found within a relatively short distance of Toowoomba. So we should not undervalue our potential for wildlife tourism and bird tourism. We know it is happening in plain sight, but not necessarily being recognised by the council in terms of dollars brought to the area. With the ecotourism poorly developed in our area, clearing trees like this is not a good advertisement, and we do have a wonderful ecotourism potential in Toowoomba if the authorities and the developers start to think about the benefits of those sort of things and leave these remnant patches for the long-term benefit of the community and generations to come. I'll just share a little story. I've got a little 4-year-old fella next door, and they are absolute sponges, kids. And I look at this young community around here. There would be lots of kids in this immediate area, and they would have so much enjoyment from being able to see that protecting a tree like this brings so many different species in plain sight from, say, their yard that are not actually occurring inside their little domain. So we need to just keep in mind the younger generation coming through. The little fellow next door, he can't get enough now of knowing what bird's what, and that's just through a bit of encouragement and taking the time to point these things out. So I'm a big advocate of educating our young kids, because they are the people that will be criticising us for knocking it all down and leaving us with a far less diverse population of birds if we keep going the way we are going in this beautiful area, particularly the Highfields area. Even while we've been here just doing this recording, some of the species that we've noted just quickly are blue-faced honeyeaters, rainbow lorikeets, red-rump parrots, pale-headed rosellas, galahs, Nankeen kestrel was seen earlier. There's a heap of welcome swallows back and forward, and sulphur-crested cockatoos, peaceful dove was seen just before we arrived, and no doubt magpie larks and magpies, butcherbirds, some of the smaller ones I mentioned earlier, such as the pardalotes. There's a couple of musk lorikeets have just flown past us. So this tree is a magnet, and as I said earlier, the suburban gardens around here, which don't have enough growth in them yet, are not going to play host to some of these species that this tree is playing host to and has been for maybe 200, 300 years. So please just think about what's important, another block or continuation of what's been meant to be here forever.